the Executive Director of Sales Development at the Wall Street Journal. Been there all of 6 weeks. Prior to that, I was an entrepreneur for 10 years. I had my own company publishing magazines for business owners, Urban Success, Winning Bids, and actually published the SBA's magazine, Small Business Success. And prior to that, I was at Inc., Entrepreneur and Success. So I pretty much have covered all of the magazines that related to entrepreneurship over the last 20 or so years. But it's my pleasure to talk today about government focus on entrepreneurship and innovation and how they're creating jobs and helping entrepreneurs. We're going to focus on 4 components. Everyone's pretty familiar with Startup America, government initiative. We have Doug Rand here who's going to be talking about that, as well as the other representatives. But that focuses on 4 components to help entrepreneurs, and that they are access to capital, reducing regulatory barriers, access to mentorship, and accelerating R&D commercialization. So what I would like to do is have the panelists introduce themselves, and in their introductions, I'd like them to talk a little bit about what new initiatives their agencies are specifically proposing to help business owners create jobs and become more innovative. So with that, let me start with Judy Canales. Judy, and I will introduce you, and then I will let you, I have that right here. Judy Canales is the Administrator, Rural Business and Cooperative Programs for the Department of Agriculture. I'll introduce everybody, and then Judy, you can go. Next to her is Paul Corson, Acting Director, Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Department of Commerce. Next to Doug is Ellen Thrasher, who's the Director of Entrepreneurship Education at the SBA. And lastly, we have Doug Rand, who's the Policy Advisor, Office of Science and Technology Policy, Executive Office of the President. So, Judy, away you go. Do you need a microphone?
I think so.
Yeah, pass all the microphones to the panelists, please.
Very good. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Judy Canales, and I serve as the Administrator for the United States Department of Agriculture, Rural Business and Cooperative Programs within Rural Development. And our whole impetus, I've been on board now in my position for about almost 2 years with the Obama administration, very pleased to serve. And my impetus has been on access to capital and trying to encourage banks to invest in rural America. What we do within rural development is we have a lineup of products, loan guarantees, grants, technical assistance funds, and of course, frankly, a state and local network throughout each state that is prime and has been very engaged in working with small business. And what I say to you is whether you are based in Chicago, Dallas, New York City, don't discount the notion of investing in rural America. You do not personally have to be living in rural America. The project itself would be in a rural area. And when we speak of rural, we speak of communities of a population of 50,000 and below. So in many, many states, that is very significant. I just came from looking at a project right now that we financed earlier in 2010 with Recovery Act dollars, and it was a family-owned business that is value-added, meaning we're beyond the agriculture aspect and going into products such as juices and blueberries and organic and all of the good things that we look for in cities, but where do they start? Often in rural America. The other note that I want to make to you is that while it is USDA, your business does not have to be agriculture. We are very broad, and I will be happy to discuss further the details as to the types of businesses that we see, but our biggest segment is manufacturing. So once again, thinking that in this country that manufacturing has vacated this country, it is strong in rural America. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thrilled to be here. Paul Corson from the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. We are a relatively new office. We were started about 1.5 years ago by Secretary Locke. And over the last year we've had a few initiatives, but I think the greatest testament to what we've been trying to do is that in the recent passage of the Competes reauthorization, we were actually, our little office was included in that legislation. We are now congressionally mandated to exist. And we've been charged to look at, in addition to other things, the commercialization space. The federal government spends somewhere around $150 billion, give or take, annually on federally funded R&D. And the question that we've asked and that we've been charged with trying to answer is, what is the return that we get on that investment? So while the education space is huge and broad, that's our little chunk. And I think that's a key element here. Just like, industries and business sectors, a vast array of products and services. Federal government's 2 million people. We all play our little role, and hopefully we coordinate, we collaborate, hopefully we stay in our lane, but we also cross over lanes when necessary to try and have an impact. And so for us, when we talk about impact, what I like to say is our focus is to look at the commercialization space. We want to be the source of paradigm-changing technologies, as well as the home of the companies that bring those technologies to market. For us, for me at least, that's what commercialization means, and that's our niche inside of that commercialization space, which I know is very broad. And yesterday, when we were talking about something, I was trying to explain a proof of concept center, and they said, "Paul, explain it like you would to your daughter. She's 6. How would you?" So we're the little engine that can. And what we're trying to do to drive those paradigm changes and that commercialization, we have something called the I6 Challenge, which is a competitive grants program focusing on 6 regions throughout the country. And this year, we're looking at the proof of concept model. We manage the Secretary's National Advisory Council on Innovation and Entrepreneurship, which is a collection of 24 distinguished professionals from the multi-stakeholders, looking at what the USG should be doing from a policy standpoint. And we've also tried to contribute to Startup America and some of the other administration goals.
Good afternoon. Ellen Thrasher at the SBA. Although taking my cue from Jonathan Ortman's earlier, I think I'm supposed to be the new small business, young small business, sustaining small business administration. So if it fits on a card, we'll do it. At the SBA, we serve America's entrepreneurs. And if you think of it as the 3 C's, one is C for capital, access to capital, critical at every stage of an entrepreneur's business cycle. The other C is for contracting, ensuring that businesses get their fair proportion of federal contracts. And I'm very pleased that we just announced the women's contracting rule. It's been 10 years in the making, and we already have, since the rule went into effect this last week, nearly 800 women-owned businesses who have received their certification. Huge. And then the last part is counseling or consulting. And what we realize is the 3 parts can't stand alone. And I think, being my bias heading up entrepreneurship development, is that the positioning of a small business at its very start, but again through all of its business cycle, is critical to its sustainability and growth. And so we do this in a variety of ways, and some of the initiatives that we're particularly doing. And I'll talk about new initiatives, but I also want to talk about our very strong and continuing commitments in certain areas. Some of the new initiatives that we've been doing, one is called Emerging 200, Emerging Businesses, where right now in 27 cities, what we realized is that at the SBA we were serving the nascent or the startup, and we were certainly serving those growth businesses, but what we were missing was the mid-growth business who was positioned for their next level of growth. And we also were missing the opportunity to work in inner cities. And so we combined this into an initiative that began under the Bush administration. I'm delighted to say that has continued under the Obama administration. And we go into inner cities that we've done research on, working with Harvard University, to identify cities that have a certain job growth loss, certain job loss, as well as a certain population. And then what we've done is that we have identified businesses there, mid-level businesses. We only focus on a C-level executive, and we take them through a 9-month executive business course. And I'm pleased to say that if any of you watched the Super Bowl, one of our native-owned businesses, Sacred Power, actually had a commercial and is taking off like crazy. And we have another that just won Make Mine $1 Million. That's one. We're also in the financial literacy area. We work with young entrepreneurs. Scott Gerber told me I'm not doing enough, so I got the message. We work with community colleges, and we've also launched a 50-plus website because entrepreneurship knows no age, gender, geographic location. And there's a whole segment of our population that we want to reach, who have the wisdom, perhaps the capital, that want to be entrepreneurs as well. I'll turn this over.